Tonight's topic, fear and money. It's been a long day and it's been very full. There's been so much movement in my calls with my clients, in calls with prospective clients, and I am seeing a world that, of course, is still emerging, evolving, shifting. And I woke up this morning with a memory of my time in 2001, in September of 2001, when I worked at a bank. That was back when I was working in the corporate world. And I remember driving, it was, just before 8 o'clock, was driving in on the traffic, on the highway, in traffic from Ashland, Oregon to Medford, Oregon to the bank, the main bank branch, when we heard the news about the towers in New York. And I remember my husband was driving me at the time, and we kind of looked at each other and said, is that like a joke? Is this like one of those War of the World things where it's not really real, they're playing this out? And then, of course, as we continue to drive and things continue to progress on the news, it was very clear what had happened. What wasn't clear, what was really amazing, was that when I got to work, I was part of the customer service branch of that bank, and I had to go down into the basement where we were housed, and it was a surreal experience to walk down into this basement and see all the faces of the people that I was working with who were shocked. There were people crying. There were television sets that had been brought in, which was unusual. So there was television sets, and people were sobbing, and people were just standing there, and the phones were ringing off the hook. And this was moments, like minutes after the planes hit in New York. And there was this constant sound of phones ringing and being on the front lines of a bank when something like that happens. I recognized how instantly that fear people were having, understandably, about what was going on, turned to fear of what was going to happen to their money. And it happened so simultaneously that this morning, as I was, that was my first thought this morning, as I was thinking about where we are today and at how things are changing and how quickly people are going to that fear place. And then the question became, isn't it interesting that in times of trouble, that's one of those first knee-jerk reactions? It was a challenge for sure to be in that environment. It was tough. I'm not going to lie. It was tough. And so as I was thinking about that today, and I was thinking about that experience, I was like, what did I take away from that? When we were talking to people on the phone about their savings and their money and the things that they were doing with it and where it was and how secure it was, I came to recognize, from a perspective of standing back, that there are so many things about people's money stories that shape how they react to a crisis. And it was really fascinating, and especially fascinating being able to look backwards, all these years later, and recognize that so many different callers had stories that had been passed on. Some of these, of course, there were a lot of older clients that were calling in on the phone in a panic, but there were also young people who had been given a story from their own parents and their grandparents about money and finances and what it looks like and security of that. And today I bring this up because all through the day, I've been talking to my clients about, what is your money story? What is it you take on in this time? How do you step into what you want your financial picture to look like? And how much of that is, bantered about by your reaction, your fear, your old stories, your fear of what might be, or the uncertainty. And how much is it in believing in uncertainty that you are actually causing, that spiral effect of fear? And one of my clients and I were talking today, and one thing that came across that I recognized in her, this, that head tilt when you're like, oh, I never thought of it that way, was, we have our own stories, each of us, whatever that looks like. And we can choose not to, or to buy into someone else's story. So what makes us choose, right? What makes us choose our own story? And then what helps or hinders us from choosing a different story? And, the comment was around the fact that when she was feeling good and she was in a good, joyous place about where she was financially right now in the middle of this crisis, and then she got together with someone else who was in a similar financial standing, but having a different reaction and a different story, she suddenly started to question her own story. And I asked her, which of those stories brings you more joy? Which of those stories helps you move forward? And how often do we treat money from that emotional standpoint rather than as a structure of a tool to be used on our behalf for whatever we're trying to create? Like, can you do it with some detachment, or is it always going to be charged? Are you always charged by it? Whatever the number is. That was that was her feedback, was like, I have this story about where I am, where I'm thinking I'm doing great. I'm feeling fantastic. I feel rich. And she has the same amount and she is struggling. And I said, here's the thing. We can have compassion for someone and where they are in their story, but we don't have to buy a ticket to that movie, right? Like that story that's playing out for them. We don't have to buy a ticket and invest in going to see that movie. It's like there are people out there that like horror films. I do not. I admittedly do not. I do not watch them. I have no interest in them. I have to admit that when I was a younger kid, and this is a good point, I would try to go in with my older siblings and the cool kids to watch, and I hated it. I spent most of the time, 90% of the time, under my jacket. I'm like, this is horrible. I don't want to be here. I chose to buy that ticket, and I didn't have fun. They were having fun, and that's okay. Like, that was their story, and they enjoyed that. I did not. And I think when we start to take apart the attachment to going along with the crowd, having our friends like our story or approve of our story, right? Then we start to create a system inside of ourselves where we're doubting our own voice, our own inner wisdom. We can temper that with the facts and the figures, if you will, but how we approach it, like where we come from, that's up to us. Everyone approaches this crisis differently. That's not necessarily a good or a bad thing. It's just different. And what I hope to impart or share about this is, if you find yourself in a place where fear and money are sitting in the same table in your mind, you have the right to get up from that table and change the script. You have the right to say, this is not the grouping I want anymore. I don't want to combine my money with all these fears. I want to look at money as my tool that I can use as a resource, that I feel empowered by, that I feel abundant about, that I feel honored and happy and joyful about having in my life, whatever it is it looks like right now. I hope that wherever you are with that, whatever that looks like right now, that you give yourself permission and space to see your story about money as just that. It is a story. Someone else I was talking to today talked about, it's an illusion. I said, well, frankly, This is all an illusion. It's a conscious soup of imagery and patterns and vibrations that looks like humanity. And that's okay. And there's another part of this where we are in an infinite body that is the universe that continues in many multi-universes, as some might say. So if you are now in a position to take a breath, I invite you to do so and ask yourself a bigger question. Are you in a place where you equate fear with money and money with fear? And would you be willing to change your story about that for the next week, 30 days, 3 months? Now, I've been having fun giving things away each day that I do this on Oracle Live. So if you're watching, or if you're watching the replay, I'm going to put in the comments, the box. I'm going to put in the comments a link for you if you want to request a copy of my self-hypnosis audio, Financial Freedom, which really is about shifting the way we think and address and engage. That's a better word. Engage with our finances, whatever they look like, so that we can be in a place when we approach our money that is curious, engage with purpose, and to understand that it comes and goes and flows at different levels, at different rates, at different times for a myriad of reasons. And we can choose how we show up to it from a place of joy and fulfillment and abundance, whatever the numbers are. And when we do, we come to it from that place. Then we get to use those building blocks that are the money to do the things we want to do. And we allow ourselves to attract more of that. So that's my gift to you tonight. I'm on a roll. So this is tonight's gift. Who knows what tomorrow's gift will be? But I wanted to make sure I got in tonight before midnight because I said I would. And that's one of the things that's important to me, is to do the things I say I'm going to do. So I know it's late, and I know many of you will be watching this on the replay. I promise to put the link in there. I'll put a link to just a form you can fill out if you want to get that Financial Freedom audio and download that. We'll have that out, and you can watch it. You can listen to it. And really, the great thing about this particular audio, which I tell people, is it works where you are. So it's going to give you a sense of confidence and freedom and release, right? Energetic release around money. So when you're showing up right now, it can open up your heart center. It can open up your energetic center so that you're taking on what's in front of you from a place of calm, peace, and abundance. And if that sounds good to you, I invite you to take a look at that link and fill out the form. And even if you don't fill out the form, then I just invite you to ask yourself again, like, what is your story and how might it be different? And what show do you want to buy a ticket to? Because it might not be the one you're watching now. All right. Thanks everybody for popping in. For all those that saw you pop in and out. Like I said, the link will be attached. I am Lia Dunlap, the Oracle on Purpose. This is Oracle Live TV. And I am here for you if you have questions. If you have questions about, or even comments about what your money story is, feel free to share those too, so we can kind of demystify what that idea of abundance and flow really is all about. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye now.